Hello and welcome. I'm David, your curly-haired host, and you're probably wondering how voting works in the ACT. Don't worry, I got you. Here's a handy explanation of how filling in the ballot works for elections in the Australian Capital Territory, and also a few other important things about how it works differently to other places in Australia. I think it's actually very interesting. Hopefully you do too. This, of course, is not a guide on who to vote for. That's a personal decision for you, like whether or not to get a tattoo, only more important and less painful. Plus, you get a democracy sausage at the end. Important reminder, the official source of information on elections in the ACT is the ACT Electoral Commission. All the information for this episode is from their website. Please check it out, elections.act.gov.au, if you need any up-to-date information in case anything changes, or if you have any questions that are not answered in this episode, like how postal and early voting works. I'm not touching that. They're too sticky. Remember, the Electoral Commission is your friend. So, let's get to it. When does voting happen? Elections happen every 4 years on the third Saturday in October. You will be able to mark the next one in your calendar and impress your friends and family with your prescience. Where does voting happen? Polling places are usually at public spaces like schools or community centres, etc. The ACT Electoral Commission website has a list as well as accessibility information. I really cannot stress their website is super handy. Fun fact, some places will have the option of using electronic voting where you can select different languages to help you. The machine also won't accept an informal vote, so you know you've definitely filled it in correctly. Like if I tried to fill it in wrong, it would be like,
"I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that."
Only like helpful instead of menacing. Either way, you'll still have the option of using a paper ballot. So let's get into the how part, the ballot itself. There'll be only one piece of paper because there's only one chamber for the ACT Parliament, the Legislative Assembly. There are 25 members in total. They're elected from 5 different electorates, and there are 5 members for each of those areas. That means multiple people will represent you once the dust settles and preferences are counted, so generally consider the options. In terms of layout, there'll be a bunch of vertical columns with names for candidates. A party with 2 or more candidates gets a column. For independents or parties putting forward only one person, those names will be in the ungrouped column, or columns depending on how many there are. So to fill it in, simple. You show your preferences by writing numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You know what the numbers are. You've heard of them. You put a number in the box next to a candidate and you rank them in the order from your first most like to your second most like, etc, etc. You don't need to fill in all the boxes, but you can if you like. Feel free to judge everyone. Rank them as you desire. Tell people who you think is, worthy of your last space. The ACT Electoral Commission recommends filling in at least 5 boxes. There'll be dozens of options. You can consider the important task of who will represent you in Parliament. Just keep in mind, don't repeat numbers, and also don't write your name on it. Voting is anonymous, it's not your homework, and if you put your name on it, you will have your vote thrown away. It won't be counted. The ACT uses a system of proportional representation. Basically, right, as there are 5 seats up for grabs in every electorate, a party can put forward multiple candidates and then get multiple candidates elected based off their proportion of votes that they got. It's not about the top number 1 candidate in your area, it's the top 5 most popular. To get elected, there's a quota of votes required, which is determined using the Hare-Clark system, which was developed by 2 men, you guessed it, called Hare and Clark. To explain the math of that, it deserves its own episode, so I'll just put a link in the description to explain the maths involved for anyone who is a big nerd and wants to know more about that. But we've got a time limit, everyone. We don't want to get bogged down. Let's carry on. The system allows there to be a mixture of political parties and independents in a way that isn't as easily created through single-member electorates, like most other Parliament lower houses. If you make a mistake, just ask one of the electoral staff to help. You can also get a fresh ballot if you realise you've filled it in incorrectly and start again. It's that simple. Literally, It's very straightforward. However, you should pay attention to who is on your ballot because of a thing called the Robson rotation, which I personally think is very cool and interesting, and I will demonstrate that by telling you about it in 3, 2, 1. The Robson rotation means each ballot is randomized. Basically, this means the order of where groups of candidates appear left to right is randomized, much like in other elections like the Senate, but the Robson rotation takes it up a notch and then randomizes the order where candidates appear within those groups top to bottom. Basically, if you and your friend are voting side by side in the same electorate, you'll have the same potential candidates to vote for, but where they appear on the ballot will be different. This means that no candidate gets an advantage. Donkey voting, for example, is where someone just marks their ballot in order of how people appear, 1, 2, 3, etc., without actually caring who gets their vote. That is still counted. I mean, what if someone genuinely thought that that was how they wanted to put their preferences? So, donkey votes mean that a small portion of first preferences goes to whoever gets the lucky number 1 spot. However, who gets that first position changes with the Robson rotation. It just sort of randomizes that, and so no one gets any boost whatsoever. This is not something that other places use in Australia, except for Tasmania, which also uses the Hare-Clark system, because the ACT and Tasmania, as we all know, are lovers. The Robson rotation encourages you to actually pay attention to who you're voting for, and so do I. Pay attention. You're not just being given a list that a political party has prepared for you in the hopes you'll just order it the way they've suggested. You're given a list of candidates whose names you need to consider and then personally find their name on the ballot in order to mark them the way you want to. So, do some research ahead of time. Who are your candidates in your area? You can find out on the ACT Electoral Commission website. The link is in the description. What are their policies? You can find that out on the candidates' social media. Who deserves your vote? Well, that's up to you to figure out. It's up to you to decide who you want to make the laws for you and manage the territory and area around you. So a little bit of research ahead of time will make you feel a lot more confident and empowered when you decide to cast your vote at an election. So have fun, enjoy democracy sausage, and that is all from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this, learned a few things, and, well, don't forget to share, subscribe, comment down below what you would like to learn about next. And hey, Canberrans, I hear you're actually a pretty big fan of electric vehicles and have purchased more than the rest of Australia. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, genuinely, that money goes towards me eventually one day buying an electric vehicle. If I repeat this enough, people will realize that's a real goal. But yes, a genuine thank you to my supporters on Patreon. Anyway, have fun voting, and I'll see you next time.